Welcome to the Golden Thread. This is Southern Maryland Community Network's training on how to make your casework tell a story, narrated by Karen Carloni, Executive Director. The Golden Thread describes how the assessment connects to the treatment plan, which then connects to the ongoing documentation. Each piece of documentation must flow logically from one to the other so that the reviewer can see the connection. The assessment must be coherent, cohesive, and establish medical necessity and must identify the symptoms and behaviors to be addressed in the treatment plan. The specific assessment depends upon the program that you're working in. Make sure that you know the aspects of the assessment that describe symptoms, behavior, and medical necessity criteria. Once the assessment is complete, the treatment plan structures the treatment to accomplish identified goals and objectives using specific interventions. Progress notes then flow from the treatment plan, and they document both the service provided and the client response. Ideally, the client response should be in the client's own words or describe in measurable terms how the client responded to the intervention. Finally, the notes lead to the treatment plan review and update, and the cycle continues until discharge. In the assessment, you should be identifying the client's SNAP, their strengths, needs, abilities, and preferences. This is essential to determine what you want to include in the treatment plan and what the client might choose not to include. The treatment plan is an agreement that guides the course of treatment and the expected achievements to lead toward an eventual transition and discharge. Remember the golden thread. The treatment plan must identify the problems and needs identified in the assessment, and the plan must relate to the services the client will be receiving. Each objective should be SMART. It should be simple or straightforward. It should be measurable. It should be attainable. It should also be realistic and time-framed. The objective should describe in plain language how you can determine when it will be completed. Why is it important? If accurately followed, documentation will support each decision, intervention, and note. It contributes to a complete record of client care that's error-free and ready for reimbursement. Correctly delivered and documented services prevent the agency and the providers from being at risk during a Medicaid or Medicare audit. Let's avoid some of the more common errors. A common error is missing the staff's intervention. The note describes a play-by-play of what the client did, but not what the staff did. The staff intervention must be described with a verb that is a reimbursable activity under that service type. At times, we miss describing the progress toward the objectives. So we need to describe whether the client made any progress on the goal that's being worked on. Sometimes the notes may contraindicate the medical necessity. So on the one hand, we will describe that someone has a significant medical need, but the notes will make it sound as if there are no concerns. Finally, an error that's common is having canned language in plans All language must be unique and not cloned. We cannot carry goals over from authorization to authorization. Here's an example of an appropriate set of documentation. Let's imagine that in the assessment the client has an identified need to manage their anxiety and self-destructive behaviors. This objective is stated in the client's words. I want to learn to calm myself down so I make better decisions. One SMART goal might be that the client will master 2 stress reduction skills within the next 60 days, as measured by their self-report of successfully resolving conflicts and problems without self-defeating behavior. We have 2 interventions noted here that might be employed in this case. Staff will meet with the client every week in the community to practice the stress reduction skills for 2 months. Intervention number 2 is the staff will provide skills training on stress management 1 hour per week for the next 60 days. These are 2 examples of how you might create an intervention toward that goal. In the progress note, you might describe that the CSS taught the client a box breathing technique and practiced several times. The client said he felt silly, but agreed to try on his own once per day. This is an example of appropriate documentation. If you want to think about viewing your case record as a story, one easy way to do that is to filter in credible for a date range. So let's imagine that you filter for the last full authorization period. And during this authorization period, you should be able to see the golden thread in evidence as you read from the oldest document to the newest. Thank you for attending this training on the golden thread. Please take the appropriate quiz and have a great day.